The restaurant at the end of the world. The man walked into the small, isolated restaurant on a quiet highway, his face twisted in a determined scowl. The restaurant was empty except for the old owner, a scattering of Partons, and a couple of truck drivers who were having breakfast. Without warning, the man shouted, "No one leaves this restaurant." Panic erupted as customers scrambled to their feet, knocking over tables and chairs in their haste to get away. But the man was not done yet. He stepped forward, his voice rising above the chaos. "Listen to me," he shouted. "I know this sounds crazy, but I promise you, I am here to save all of you. A terrible fate is about to befall everyone outside these walls, and I am the only one who can stop it." One of the customers, a young mother with her child, stepped forward, her voice trembling with fear. "What do you mean? What's going on?" The man took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the room as he searched for the right words. "There's a deadly virus spreading," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I don't have time to explain how I know this, but trust me, it's real. And it's coming here, to this city. If you don't take action now, you will all die." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd. Many of the customers exchanged skeptical glances, unsure of whether to believe the man's wild claims. "Prove it," shouted a middle-aged man at a table near the back. "How do we know you're not just some lunatic trying to scare us?" The man hesitated, knowing that what he was about to say would be hard for them to believe. "I have a contact at the Center for Disease Control," he said, his voice tight. "They confirmed it to me. They said that the virus is spreading fast and that it will reach here in a matter of days. I am the only one who knows about it, and I am the only one who can help you." The young mother stepped forward again, her eyes filled with fear. "What can we do? How can you protect us?" The man's face softened as he looked at her and her child. "I can take you all to a safe place, a lab where they have a cure. But we have to leave now, before it's too late." The customers looked at each other, unsure of what to do. But as the man spoke, they could see the truth in his eyes, and they knew they had no choice but to believe him. However, not everyone was convinced. A group of 4 friends, sitting at a table near the back of the restaurant, began to whisper among themselves. One of them, a young man named Jack, was the most vocal. "I don't buy it," he said, his voice low. "This is some kind of hoax. I'm getting out of here." As Jack stood up to leave, the man quickly stepped forward, blocking his path. "You can't go," he said, his voice firm. "If you do, you'll die. I need you to trust me, all of you." But Jack was not easily swayed. "I'm not going to sit here and be trapped by some crazy man." The man quickly sprang into action, locking Jack in a closet. Jack would have to wait out the virus there, but he would be safe. For the next few weeks, the man worked tirelessly to protect the people in the restaurant. He rationed food and water, and kept the customers informed of the situation outside. He knew the virus was spreading quickly, and that the death toll was rising. But he also knew that the people in the restaurant were safe, and that was all that mattered. As the days passed, tensions began to rise within the group. Some of the customers, like the young mother, were grateful for the man's protection and trusted his every move. But others, like Jack and his friends, grew increasingly restless and resentful of the man's control over their lives. One night, after the lights went out and the group settled down to sleep, Jack and his friends put their plan into action. They quietly made their way to the kitchen door, intent on slipping away unnoticed. But they were spotted by one of the other customers, who quickly alerted the man. He raced to the kitchen and confronted the group, his voice firm but desperate. "You can't leave," he said, his eyes scanning the faces of the would-be escapees. I know it's hard, but you have to trust me. I'm trying to save your lives." But Jack was not swayed. "I don't believe you," he spat. "I'm getting out of here, and anyone who wants to come with me is welcome to." The man knew that if the group left, they would be doomed. He quickly stepped forward, and with the help of the other customers, they were able to stop them. They locked them in a room in the kitchen, and they were not able to leave. For the next few days, the group was silent, most of them still in shock over what had just happened. But as the days passed and the virus outside continued to ravage the city, the customers began to realize the truth of the man's words. They were safe, and they had the man to thank for it. When the virus finally ran its course, the man emerged from the restaurant, victorious. The customers hugged him, tears streaming down their faces. They had survived, thanks to the man's incredible bravery and determination. And as they looked at him, they knew that he was truly a hero. They apologized to the man and thanked him for saving their lives. They realized that without him, they wouldn't have made it. The man walked out of the restaurant, victorious, the customers thanking and praising him for saving their lives. However, as they were leaving the restaurant, they were met by a team of scientists and researchers. They explained that the virus outbreak was a part of a secret experiment, and the man who had saved them was actually the scientist who had released the virus. He had wanted to test how people would react in a crisis situation and how they would survive. The customers were in shock and couldn't believe what they were hearing. They felt betrayed and angry that their lives had been put at risk for an experiment. The scientist tried to explain that he had never intended for anyone to get hurt, and that the virus was a harmless strain, but his explanation fell on deaf ears. The customers filed a lawsuit against the scientist and the company for endangering their lives. The scientist was arrested and charged for his actions, and the company was shut down. The customers, who had come together during the crisis, decided to go their separate ways, still haunted by what had happened to them. The scientist, who had once thought that he was saving people, now realized the true cost of his actions. He sat alone in his cell, reflecting on the devastation he had caused and the lives he had put at risk. He knew that he could never undo what he had done and that he would have to live with the consequences of his actions for the rest of his life. The man walked out of the restaurant, victorious, the customers thanking and praising him for saving their lives. However, as they were leaving the restaurant, they were met by a team of scientists and researchers. They explained that the virus outbreak was a part of a secret experiment, and the man who had saved them was actually the scientist who had released the virus. He had wanted to test how people would react in a crisis situation and how they would survive. The customers were in shock and couldn't believe what they were hearing. They felt betrayed and angry that their lives had been put at risk for an experiment. The scientist tried to explain that he had never intended for anyone to get hurt, and that the virus was a harmless strain, but his explanation fell on deaf ears. The customers filed a lawsuit against the scientist and the company for endangering their lives. The scientist was arrested and charged for his actions, and the company was shut down. The customers, who had come together during the crisis, decided to go their separate ways, still haunted by what had happened to them.